Belinda Dubston. Super duper that you are here with me. We are here for our weekly I Ching forecast, this time for the week commencing the 13th of October 2025. We are indeed this week crossing the threshold from the first hexagram of the month to the second. So do pay attention as we work with this week. Last week's flow, we had that 33 retreat, withdrawing, trying to withdraw, and we had all those problem lines. 2 lines saying we were having some challenges in being able to pull back and get some space, some perspective, some time out, maybe a withdrawal from something we don't want to do anymore. And then that cheerful retreat line that hopefully came to give you some space at the end of the week, moving into hexagram 47, exhaustion. Where did you feel depleted and flattened? Did you run out of time? Did you run out of cash? Did you run out of energy, momentum, motivation? What flattened you last week? Or where did you pay attention to where your energy is really, really low? Think about last week, reflect on it, think about how we worked with this idea of pulling back, withdrawing, finding a little time out. Hopefully you did, and hopefully you recognize that when we face exhaustion, the best thing we can do is take a little care of ourselves and working to support ourselves in renewing and replenishing. If anything came up for you that was evidential, please do share a comment. Okay, let's get into this week's forecast. What is the I Ching asking us to pay attention to this week? It's always wonderful when we get these patterns and cycles, and this week we have that indeed because we had this exact same outline. First hexagram, changing line, second hexagram in March this year. So I'm going to be repeating myself. And we also start off the week with the second hexagram for this month. Okay, now we're tipping into that second part because our first hexagram is hexagram 29, the Abysmal. Okay, the Abysmal sounds terrible. It's a doubling of water, okay, and the word abyss, all right, brings to mind that idea of a valley, a ravine. It's not supposed to be a bottomless abyss like the Mariana Trench, but rather a pit, a place where energy pumps through with this doubling of water. Water in the top trigram, water on the bottom trigram, pumps down the ravine and brings this intensification of flow, which might also be the intensification of challenge. Okay, so we experience this water pumping down, all right. It brings risk and uncertainty and flow and issues and stuff coming down, okay. Remember when we have water barreling down a ravine, you don't just get water, you get all the bits and bobs that come with it, trees and trunks and branches and rocks and all kinds of things coming down, lots of things coming down for us to deal with. And the way that we learn how to master this flow this week is, as you know from the monthly, if you've watched that episode, is to be like water, to master the water moment. We don't be like stone, okay, and try and cling on to the side of the ravine and hold on for dear life to the old, to the known. We have to at some point take a leap in the onslaught of this energy flowing down, and we have to take that leap and let go and let the water take us. We don't fight it, we don't thrash in the water like crazy people, we just calmly let the water flow take us, okay, because time will peter out. The energy will peter out eventually as that intense energy shifts and moves. So we know that when we work with this hexagram, we do get challenge, we do get intensification, we do get a lot of pressure, a lot of stress and risk and uncertainty. And we have to make friends with that. We have to find a way of being like water, dealing with water. All right, we don't try when there's a huge amount of risk and uncertainty to create massive amounts of security and certainty, because that is not the time. We need to flow with it. We need to find a way. We need to deal with things. We need to be nimble on our feet and agile, all right? Take it as it comes. Find a way of being like water when we're in water. Fixed and rigid, okay, old school is not going to work for us this week. We have got to get a lot more agile in dealing with the things that are coming down. And that allows us to build new muscles, learn new things, and get through a massive surge of energy in a very short space of time. Now, we have only one changing line in the third position. All right. So that means that because there's only one changing line, this is why this weekly overview is the same as the one in March. And that changing line is a difficult one because position 3, you're about to cross that chasm from the bottom water to the top water. Okay. It's an internal shift from internal to external. Okay. It's tricky. And this one says, do not get stuck in the pit, stuck in being churned up and down because we said yes to something that is far bigger than we are ready for or understand. I describe this idea of, you think about Aladdin and his lamp, right? And he's got this lamp. He's like, oh, this is interesting. Rub, rub, rub. And out comes the genie, and the genie is like 10, 20, 30, 40,000 years old. Plus, there's this ancient wisdom, and there's a power, and there's an intelligence here that's really far beyond what Aladdin can perceive and understand. And so he thinks that he's clever, right? How he's going to engage and kind of trick this genie into his will. But this genie is like, little child, I got plans for you. So I see this changing line as, us innocent people just bumbling along and saying yes to things and rubbing the lamp. Oh, let's see what happens. Let's go with the flow. And we'll work it out as we go. Rub, rub, rub. Okay. And we land up in a situation where what we said yes to, what we're involved in, the pit that we're in, the abyss that we're flowing down, is way more than we have the skills and abilities to handle right now. Okay. So what that means, it means that we are incredibly discerning this week around what we say yes to. Not just what's in this week, but thinking about the bigger picture. Always expand your concept and thinking when we get these hexagrams outside of the time-bound fence of Monday to Sunday. Okay. Look at what's coming up here. Look in context of the projects and the things and the decisions you are facing in whatever area of life is being brought to you at the time, and see these inputs as part of that reflection. Okay. Think back to the monthly. We had limitation and we had the hexagram, the abysmal. Now, it's not just about that month. It's about the projects that we're involved in. What do we need to do to put in place those limits and structures and flow and risk management right now, but for a bigger thing that's playing out? Okay. The same for this week. Okay. We work with these genies, okay, and we say we've got to be careful what we say yes to, what we engage, what we work with, because there's something here in something we're doing that's maybe a more of a longer term, bigger thing where we risk saying yes to something that is just too much. Okay. With this changing line, we need to stay in the container. Okay. Keep the genie in the container. Stay at home. Stay focused. Same idea. We've had the stay at home notion repeated over several weeks in the monthly. Okay, stay at home, stay in your core, all right? Be careful what you say yes to, all right? What you lean into, what you embrace, what you choose to do now. Be cautious. Our second hexagram that flows out of that is hexagram 48, the well. So I'm sure by now you're triggering a memory from March, all right? We had this flow pumping down. We had this containing, careful, all right? And then we have the well. The well is a structure. It is a structure that contains water. So we have lots of water this week, all right? We have lots of water for the monthly, okay? There is flow, there is emotion, there's issues, okay? We are dealing with them in this month. And this week, we are working with the well. This is our path to victory. I often see the second hexagram as, what is this path to victory? That if we reach into the second hexagram, we can bring something into the first hexagram to bring a victory. And it is creating the structure. The well is a structure that gives you access to the stream water, the underground stream, the untapped potential. All right, still flow, but different to this doubling of water of the abysmal. And it allows us to build a structure that allows us to tap into the inexhaustible supply of resources, nourishment, care, joy, money, spiritual fulfillment, whatever it is. The well is a structure that allows us to access that. So I always see this well as being the opportunity to build a structure. In your business, this is your methodology, your how-tos, your policies, your client networking structure, your social media structure, the structure you use to access the water. Okay, maybe your systems, your CRM or whatever, but it's your structure of how you gain access to the supply. All right. In your life, the well can be your spiritual structure, your personal structure, your daily rituals, your exercise routines, your hobbies and your family time and your social time. What are these structures that allow you to access this beautiful nourishment, this inexhaustible supply that at any time you want to, you can tap into it and you can draw it up? And there's no limit on the wishes. Okay, this is not a wishing well. This is a well that just will continue to give, right? See how I did that? I pivoted back to the genie. Okay, so it is a wishing well, but it's not just 3. It will keep on giving you what you wish, okay? If you build a beautiful deep well and you make sure your structure is right. Not a structure like a well that kind of just hasn't been dug deep enough, so it just gets kind of sandy water, mud. You want a well that's really deep into a natural spring, and there's nothing you need to do anymore. Okay, it's plugged into the spring. You've built a beautiful well. Right? You've built a structure in your life and in your business that's given you this access to this supply, and you just bring up the buckets as you need. You bring up the buckets. Okay, so we work with this idea of the bounty, the nourishment that can come if we build the right well and we pay attention to the structures that are essential to us, to our life and our happiness and our joy and our sustenance. We pay attention to those structures because in a way the well contains our first hexagram. We've got this water pumping down and we need a way to harness it. So we go back to the genie. We harness the genie, all right? We put him back in the container when he's not being used. We find that magic word that makes him go back into the lamp. And we put him back in there and we call upon him when we need. So it's about that idea of containing and restricting and structuring. See how I pivoted back to our monthly limitation. We put in the structure, the limitation allows us to focus that energy that we are working with. That is how we master this week. There's a lot here we're being drawn to, that we're being asked to pay attention to as that water is pumping down, both for this weekly and in the second half of October, which we're dipping into. There's water everywhere, and we want lots of drops to drink. We build the well, we reinforce the well, we understand the structures that allow us to tap off the things that we need off that water supply, rather than just be in this kind of frothy foam, okay, being tossed around, just upside down and unsure and uncertain. And no, we want the well, okay? We want to create the structure and focus the flow. That is how we work with insights for the week ahead. Well, if you enjoyed it and found it valuable, please, as always, and do a thumbs up, a like would be really great. And of course, if you're new, hit the subscribe button, the bell, the follow button on the podcast. You know what to do to get the episodes straight into your app as they are published. And I look forward to connecting with you very soon for next week's forecast. Until then, look after that genie and happy wishing.